I was not a Ridge Racer guy. My knowledge of Ridge Racer started and stopped with that Sony E3 press conference where the president of Sony goes, "Ridge Racer."
Ridge Racer! Remember that one?
I never played the games, never watched footage of them. My interest charted somewhere between who cares and eh. So I've been playing racing games my entire life. I've been a casual enjoyer going back to the Cruisin' arcade cabinets and the Nintendo 64 version of Cruisin' USA. I never played any racing game long enough to get really good at it, but I still play Mario Kart every now and then, and I've always had a great time playing that. Even Mario Kart World, which I think is an awesome game, worth the price of admission just for the soundtrack, and that's not even a joke. So I was cruising through the Nintendo 64 library on the Switch when I noticed Ridge Racer 64. I figured, I want to be a cultured guy, and I can't think of any racing game that I hate, so why not try a taste of Ridge Racer just to say I've played the series. Then I can go online and tell everyone I've been a hardcore Ridge Racer fan for 30 years. I expected to play a race or two before dropping the game, but I wound up playing for 2 hours. That's like 90 minutes more than what I thought I'd tolerate, so that exceeded my expectations. I was happy with that. Don't know what fans think of Ridge Racer 64, but I thought it was as mediocre as a racing game could get. Completely bland and inoffensive. None of the charm of Mario Kart 64, not as fast as F-Zero X, no catchy theme song like the Cruisin' USA theme. Just your standard racing game from the 90s. The cars come in two flavors. One has so much grip that you breathe on the stick and you pull a sudden U-turn, or it has no grip at all and you slide like an ice skater. In both cases, I'm hitting the wall constantly. I think it plays faster in first-person mode somehow. The controls just feel more responsive. But it has drifting, and I love drifting. So it got me thinking, have I been missing out on something special all my life? Is Ridge Racer worthwhile? I took a little tour to find out.
Ridge Racer 5.
The next game on my list was Ridge Racer 5. Big mistake playing this game as a newbie. Ridge Racer 5 on normal mode was so hard that I couldn't even make it past the first race after something like 15 tries. I stopped counting. And I don't mean the first tournament, I mean the very first race. I wasn't even close. The best I placed was 7th. I started laughing by race 10 because I couldn't believe how much I was struggling. I almost never laugh at games, yet a 25-year-old racing game broke me. This is a game for established fans, and I respect the hell out of it for that. It makes zero attempt at catering to newcomers, which is such a refreshing sight to see. Here I am, a fresh off the street scrub, and I'm so happy this game didn't try to ease me in. You want in, you've got to earn it. I checked the controls to see if I was missing a mechanic. I thought I had to be missing something. How can a racing game be this hard from the get-go? But no, this is as simple as it gets. There's nothing complicated going on here. You've just got to race well. That, and you've got to get used to steering with the D-pad. Strange considering Ridge Racer 64 supported analog steering. That's the one thing I don't miss about the PS2 era. It's like Japanese devs were stick-averse. They were afraid of them. Kingdom Hearts had you use the triggers to turn the camera while the right stick did nothing. Infuriating, even 20-something years ago. But Ridge Racer 5 is a very weighty game, which I wasn't expecting from an arcade racer. I was expecting to zip around each corner at max speed, turning on a dime, but it's not like that. Straightening the car after a drift is pretty tricky. You've got to develop a feel for it. It's easy to fishtail, and if you careen into a wall, that's it. It's over. None of the computer opponents will mess up, they'll slip ahead of you, and once they take the lead, they don't play stupid so you can catch up. It just snowballs. You make too many mistakes on the first lap, you might as well reset. Even something seemingly innocuous like bumping into a car in front of you is a big deal, because this game isn't a sim racer. It doesn't abide by the laws of physics. If you tap the guy in front of you, you just gave him a speed boost. Go ahead and reset. Because the drifting feels heavy, you can't expect to drift at the last minute. Or maybe you can and I'm just not good enough. See, my approach was you've got to come into the corners with a good line, just like you would in a non-arcade racer. This is from an era where there's no glowing line to guide you down the track telling you when to brake, so you've got to develop that line-taking strategy on your own. I don't like that glowing line you see in modern racers because it doesn't help me develop better racing skills, just helps me learn how to trace that line. I'm focusing on the line and not the road. take it away, and I'm lost. With this game, I follow the opponents. They taught me which side of the road to hug and when to turn into a corner. When I didn't see them on the screen, I'd already memorized the line, so I was still able to take it without assistance. And across 15 races, I worked my way up from dead last to consistently hitting 7th or 8th place. Still sucks, but it's an improvement. I tried switching from the drift car to a grip one, thinking I could just ignore the drift mechanic in exchange for better handling. That didn't work. Grip doesn't mean sharper cornering, it means the worst understeer you could possibly imagine. Feels like steering a cruise ship, and it sucks at drifting too. I could have kept going with this and eventually succeeded. That's how arcade games work. They're brutally hard, and you practice and practice and practice until you get it right. But this isn't the only Ridge Racer out there. Instead of practicing this race for 3 hours listening to that same song on repeat until it bores a hole straight through my skull, I decided to put Ridge Racer 5 on ice. This is a game for experienced players, and I'm not that. I've got to work my way up to this.
Ridge Racer.
If Ridge Racer 64 is mediocre and 5 is more than I bargained for, where does Ridge Racer 2 fit into this? Is third time the charm? From what I understand, this is a compilation entry taking tracks from the past games and remixing some of the old tunes. It's a celebration of Ridge Racer, and it never released in the US until it was ported to the PS5 a few years ago. I'm surprised it was ported at all. Was it an attempt to gauge interest in the series? A quick and dirty port to collect a couple of pennies from the 15 or so Ridge Racer fans? No clue. Every time you boot up this game, you load into Rally X before reaching the title screen. Technically it's New Rally X, and I'm sure the single Rally X fan left in the world can tell the difference. It's supposed to be a bit easier, I think that's the main thing here. I'm not a huge fan of these maze chase games, but I gave this a whirl for one life every time I turned the game on. Turned into a routine. I don't have much to say other than it plays just like Head-On, Pac-Man, and all those other dot-eating games from the early 80s. Anytime someone came up with a remotely successful idea for an arcade game, the market was flooded with about 300 clones. Kinda like what we saw 30 years later with Dark Souls. Some things never change. On to the main event, Ridge Racer 2. This is a stark contrast from 5. I went from not finishing a single track to cruising through most races on my first try. The difficulty gradient is much smoother. The first tour you have access to has 16 races, and it doesn't heat up until you're about 10 or 11 races deep. And this is coming from a newbie. For a seasoned player, forget normal mode. It's like riding a bike with the training wheels still on. Ridge Racer 5 was released in 2000, and Ridge Racer 2 in 2006. Over the course of 6 years, we went from members only, keep out, to bring your child to work day. You want to know when games became accessible for everyone? Look at that time span. Why is Ridge Racer 2 easier? Well, there's 2 reasons that I can come up with. Maybe 3. The first is that the AI isn't as good, plain and simple. Comparing apples to apples, normal mode in Ridge Racer 5 versus normal mode in 2, the AI is noticeably worse in 2. I can reach first place in 2 laps, then it's driving Miss Daisy for the final lap. The second reason is that drifting is easier. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to drift a Sherman tank around a hairpin. The third reason, the maybe reason, is there's nitrous, or NOS as it's called in the Fast and the Furious.
I need NOS. I need NOS.
I love calling it NOS, it's hilarious. The NOS gauge fills whenever you drift, so there's an incentive to drift whenever possible. In 5 there's no NOS, and since drifting was tough, I tried to avoid it if I could. Taking a better line through the corners felt more important. But in 2, I drift all day and night, then take 100 shots of NOS to blow the welds on the intake. The AI can use it too, and in the later races they'll smoke you with NOS, so it does become a balanced mechanic eventually. But it's not just get NOS and blow it right away, because this is a very vertical game. So many courses have you climbing uphill, and the higher gears have less torque. If you come into a hill at full speed, you start to lose that speed as you climb. And if you're playing on manual, you can downshift to accelerate faster if you lose too much. Makes racing feel more involved than just flooring it with an automatic transmission. I like having more control over my car. Also, if you're saving NOS, you can use it to help you climb the inclines much faster than your opponents. I like that strategic value of NOS, you have to think about when to use it. With the drifting, so what I did to drift in Ridge Racer 5 was I tapped the brakes to lose traction, then let go of the gas while steering, then punched it while straightening out. If you punch it too soon, you start to fishtail. In 2, and I later found out that drifting works the same way in 5, is I don't touch the brakes at all. Just letting off the throttle and turning sharply is enough to initiate a drift. Of all the drift racers I've played, Mario Kart is by far the easiest to keep a drift going. The initial D arcade cabinets, from what little I've played, were probably the hardest, those were tough. And Ridge Racer fits into the middle ground, leaning more towards easy at first, but it'll test you later on once you unlock the faster cars. And once I learned how to play, Ridge Racer 2 turned into an awesome game. If you're looking to get your feet wet with this series, this is the one to try. And to round off this little excursion, I tried one more game, the fan favorite,
R4.
I could immediately see why R4 is still remembered fondly. It's got a story mode. Not just your standard Grand Prix mode, but dialogue and cutscenes bookending every race. This has to be the main appeal because of how much effort was put into it. You pick a team and each one has a self-contained mini-story that progresses as you finish each race. Your performance alters the dialogue a little bit too. If you get second place, they'll go, "Wow, only second?" If you nail first place 3 times in a row, they'll say, "Wow, only first place 3 times in a row?" What gets to me is how melodramatic this story mode is. And I haven't gone through every iteration, but just for the first one, I picked the Pac-Man team because it looks silly. And halfway through, the team manager talks about how he accidentally killed his friend during a race. When he finished a Grand Prix, there's an epilogue where he talks about how he's going to continue his friend's legacy, and it's so anime. This is a game for anime fans. It has to be. I just got a trophy in the shape of Pac-Man after driving the Pac-Man mobile. I don't want to watch this monologue like it's the credits for season 1 of some racing anime. R4's also got 300 cars, and I can't imagine the ungodly amount of hours it take grinding Grand Prix mode to collect all of them. I'm not sure if all these cars are distinct. I unlocked 4 and they're all the same design, just with different top speed. For all the style and the menus, the catchy soundtrack that I listen to outside of the game, it's that good. And robust content on offer, R4 really isn't that fun to play. It plays similar to Ridge Racer 64, where the drift cars are so touchy in first-person mode, impossible to finish a race without bumping into every wall, and the drifting is finicky. Letting off the throttle to drift technically works, but it's inconsistent. If you tap the brakes while maintaining gas like in 5, you won't drift, you'll just brake. The only way I was able to consistently get a drift going was to release the gas, then tap the brakes before giving it gas again. Tapping once is a short drift, and for the longer corners I sometimes needed to tap the brakes twice. Once I got the hang of it, I was getting first place, but the mechanics of drifting feel worse here than in Ridge Racers 2 and 5. I tried another Grand Prix run with a different team, and it became clear as day why people like this game. You can chat with a girl between every race. With the music playing, this feels just like a Persona social link. I picked the grip car this time around, which controls so bad, and it looks like you're going through the same circuits in the same order. How many times do you need to go through this to unlock every car? It's gotta be something like 80 times. Unless you're in it for the story, which I'm not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. For all the style this game has, and believe me, it's got style, it doesn't have the racing to keep my attention. I had my fill with R4, but I wasn't done with this little foray into Ridge Racer. I had some unfinished business to attend to. With a little more experience, I returned for a rematch with my nemesis, the first track of Ridge Racer 5. Nothing fancy this time, just went with the plain Jane starting car. On my first try, I got 4th place, which not only was a huge improvement from when I first played the game, it was enough to qualify for the next race. Halfway through the second race, I realized that drifting still didn't feel right. Then an epiphany hit. Ridge Racer 64 felt more responsive in first person. I made the switch halfway through and got a little better at drifting, but not enough to win, finished in 9th place. On my second try, I did the whole thing in first person and got 6th. Getting closer. Third try, I also got 6th place. Ridge Racer 5 is more punishing than 2 because you don't have infinite retries. You get 4 attempts, and if you don't qualify, you lose the entire tournament and need to start all over. This was my last chance, and this last attempt was when drifting finally clicked. Don't drift from inside a corner, start the drift from outside. Once I made that realization, I got 2nd place.
Finish! That was close, but he still made the top 3!
The third race was nerve-wracking. I tried my best, but I only finished 4th, which wasn't enough to qualify. Then the results screen said I had 3 attempts left. The attempts refresh after each race, so it's way more forgiving than I gave it credit for. During my second try, my drifting regressed. I took the corner too tight and went right into the rail, lost all my speed. There was no way to recover from that, so I reset. Got second place on the third try and made it to the final race. The final race is brutal. Look at the layout. It's got a dozen corners, it's much longer than the previous tracks, and there's no leniency with qualifying. If you're not first, you lose. But I was confident that I could win. On the final lap, I overtook first place halfway through. Just had to drive clean and I'd finally clear the tournament. It was going smooth until I made it to the last corner. All I had to do was take it from the outside, don't drift, and it's over. Instead, I made the same stupid mistake I'd been making in the past races. I drifted from the inside, straight into the wall, lost my speed, looked into the rearview mirror, and second place was coming in hot. I swerved to the right to block him, but he snuck in from the left. I lost. Then on the next attempt, I stole first early in the second lap and won the whole shebang easy. The trophy was mine. It was the most satisfying victory I'd achieved in any racing game of the past, I don't even know how many years, a very long time. And that victory catapulted Ridge Racer 5 to the top of the list. This game makes sure that when you win, you earned that win. That is the sensation that made me fall in love with video games so many years ago. It's not pretty to look at, it doesn't do anything fancy, it doesn't have a story mode and 300 different cars. There's no online matchmaking, no leaderboards, nothing but simple, straightforward racing. And sometimes, that's all I need.